Hello and welcome to Peak Performance Secrets. My name is Kamoye Benjamin, and this is an amazing new week as we have the conversation on how to become decisive. Thank you so much for all of you that are joining me. If this is your first time, this time, every weekday between 1 and 1:15, 1:30 p.m. is dedicated towards developing the mindset and skill set required in order for you to create more. I believe that there is more for you, more impact, more income, more clarity, more decisiveness, more awareness, whatever more represents. And as a peak performance coach, I love the idea that when we come together in a spirit of cooperation and harmony, looking at whatever goals you are seeking to create, we can create more, whatever more represents. It's a new week, and in this new week, we're going to be talking about decisiveness. I want to just bring it up onto the screen for you because I absolutely love this topic, and I've been thinking about doing it for a while, and now I've got the kind of like the release to begin to share this idea with you. And we'll be covering in this week just a few ideas on how we can get good at being decisive. Welcome. For those of you who are joining me for the very first time, if you've checked out some of the material that we'll put out on Facebook, this week we're going to be talking about decisiveness. I just want to walk you very quickly through some of the big ideas that I will be sharing this week. I think it's something important, and I've just come to that awareness of, hey, when we're starting this episode, it might be a good idea just to share with you what exactly we're going to be talking about. Here, it's coming up on the screen here. I'd like for you to note that these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about this week. We're going to be talking about decisiveness, and that's the key topic, the mindset and competence to master procrastination. Specifically today, I'm going to talk to you about how to make big decisions appear small. That's the topic for today. On Tuesday this week, we're going to be talking about why good opinions are bad when making a decision. You want to understand the kryptonite of decision making. On Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome the bad habit of indecisiveness. Whoa, there's a lot to learn inside here about indecisiveness and the posture to avoid, especially when you're approaching a decision. On Thursday, we're going to be talking about how delayed decisions derail your destiny. It's not just the decision that's pending, but also in the particular moment that you're holding back, your destiny is being derailed. How does that happen? And then finally, on Friday, we're going to be talking about developing the rare discipline of decisiveness. Developing the rare discipline of decisiveness. Why do I call it rare? I call it rare because the research out there, about the people who fail, and I'm picking this both from my personal experiences, but also from some of the research that was done by Napoleon Hill in the process when he had been commissioned to go and interrogate and get information from people who had made decisions, for him to really understand what that was all about. Why is it that the people who struggle to make decisions struggle? Why is it that the people who fail are linked significantly with their inability to make decisions? That is something that I also want and would love for us to explore. Let's dive into the conversation for today. I'm going to bring it up onto the screen in one tiny bit minute as I get my tech here to cooperate with me. Something didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen, but there's always a hack, a way around that. And we're able to bring that up in one good moment. There we go. How to make big decisions appear small. Have you ever been approaching a decision and you felt like it was a big decision? Maybe you have also used the word, this is a big decision. This is a big decision. I need to really think through this. This is a big decision. Have you ever said that to yourself? Have you found that you procrastinated when you're faced with a decision because you feel that it's big, you feel that it's momentous, you feel that it's whatever that may be, and you have some reason, always having a reason for a delay not to make a decision? Do you hope that important matters will resolve themselves, especially when you're approaching them and feeling that this is too big, this is, the biggest decision I've ever made? If you've ever used those words, this session is for you. I'll share with you mindset hacks to make a decision appear small. This is not just motivation mojo. This is mindset for peak performance. When you're entering a decision, when you're entering an opportunity to decide, how do you approach the decision so that your fully resourced state steps into the decision making moment? How do you tackle a decision without being tackled by the decision? What is required? What kind of a mindset do you need to be operating from? That's what I want us to talk about today. But before we go further, I believe that it's always fair to begin by a definition. And I want us to define what is a decision. What have you considered a decision to be? Consider this definition. The word decision, to decide, comes from the Latin word decidere. I love this. It comes from the Latin word decidere, which is a combination of these two words. And the two words are de, which is off, and sidere, which is to cut. And so the word decision is really meaning to cut off, to slice off. This past weekend, my son was having a birthday. His fourth, my third born son, was having his fourth birthday. And there was obviously a cake on the table. And one of the things that we needed to do is we needed to cut the cake into several pieces, as we saw the people that were in the room and we needed to give a cake to. And when I'm thinking about decision, when I learned this word has its root in Latin, it began to support me to make decisions, because it means cutting off options. Of the options that I have to move in a particular direction, the word to decide means to cut off. If you think about incision, decision, very similar root. Very similar root. Incision, decision. It has something to do with cutting off. And so when we're stepping into making a decision, if we find ourselves using words such as, this is a big decision, then there is something that is to be uncovered from our thinking patterns that ought to be interrogated, because decisions cannot be big in and of their nature. A decision cannot be big. It is the meaning that we make when we are approaching a decision that impacts the perspective that we have. And I'm going to show you something that I believe shifted my awareness when I looked at it. Now, when we're making a decision, something that I want to show you here, we're making a choice. Ideally, when we're looking at making a decision, we're looking at making a choice when we're cutting off the options. So we cut off the options and we say, you know what, this is my choice. I'm going to go with this. I'm choosing this one. I'm making a decision, and making a decision is a function of awareness whenever we're making a choice. Which of these doors are you going to go through? The choice that you make, the decision that you pick. I'm going to go with this door. I'm going to go through this door. What business are you going to start? When are you going to get married? Where are you going to invest? How are you going to grow your business? What do you want for your life? It's a moment of decision. And that moment of decision is a choice from one of two or many options. What choice you make is a function of your awareness. Now, there are 7 levels of awareness. And if you check on my YouTube channel, you will find a teaching where I've done a teaching on the 7 levels of awareness. Choice is always a function of awareness. But what interested me about decision making is that decisions are never about so much what's going to happen after I make a decision. I mean, we put a lot of weight in making a decision, and yet a decision is just that, a decision. But what causes us to feel the weight of the decision is the attachment that we have to the outcome. I'm going to talk to you about that later. But for now, let me take you to the big question of the day, which is, Whenever you say that a decision is big, what exactly is happening into your conscious awareness? Now, look at this image. A big bear, all right, and a small human being right here. A big bear and a small human being. Whenever you use the word big, you've got to ask the question, in comparison to what? Oh, I've got a big decision to make. Big. In comparison to what? I don't know about you, but this awareness, again, choice is a function of awareness. This awareness shifted the way I approach decisions. I was talking to my coach, Andy Hall. I was about to launch 7-Day Challenge, which is one of my programs. And that was about two years ago. And I'm on the call and I'm telling Andy, you know what? Wow, this is going to be a big moment. It's going to be a big moment. Again, remember the power of words. The power of words reveal our inner game. And I told him, hey, Andy, this is going to be a big moment. And he asked me, big in comparison to what? And I had to go into my inside and find what had caused me to magnify this particular thing I was doing. Where was the magnification of the thing coming from? What was causing me to give it a weight that it did not bear and have in and of itself? What caused me to give it a weight that it did not have in and of itself? I'm facing a big decision. Big in comparison to what? And this is not just for decision. For you who's watching me today, notice this. Whenever you use the word big, unless you're using it erroneously, and I mean in a grammatical sense, you're using the word big because you couldn't find another word. Unless you're using that word erroneously, whenever you use the word big, pause and ask yourself, in comparison to what? In my work as a peak performance coach, I find that whenever people use the word big, and whenever I use the word big before I knew what I'm about to share with you, it was always because I considered myself smaller. In other words, my resources, my resource state, and my awareness of that resource state was smaller, was insignificant in comparison to the action, to the decision that was required in that particular moment. And I didn't say the word big because I lacked vocabulary, but I said the big because I was manifesting and I was confessing my smallness. Oh my goodness. This blew my mind. That whenever you use the word big, it's always in comparison to your resource state. And even if we go back to this image, yes, I get it that, yeah, this is a big bear. This is a big bear in comparison to the tiny little human being over here. And when we're talking about making a big decision, I would rather that you use the correct vocabulary to say, I'm making an important decision. Because when you talk about making an important decision, you summon very different resources to the front. To be careful about the details, to look at the data, to consider the options, to consider the outcomes. What you communicate to your resource state is that this is important. I want to get the best outcome considering the options that are in front of me. That's a very different conversation when you say, hey, Benjamin, I'm about to make an important decision. Than as you to say, I'm about to make a big big decision, and I'm challenging that. Big in comparison to what? I believe that every time that we're using the word big, it's in comparison to our resourced state, our resources, which is our ability to create that state of resource. And I'm talking just about financial resources, but I'm also talking about intellectual resources. The decision becomes small when you recognize your big resources. The decision becomes small. When you consider your capacity to step in, when you consider your capacity to alter the outcomes even when things don't go the way you wanted them to go, the decision in that particular moment shrinks in size when you become fully aware of your resource state. Again, going back to the image over here, the bear may be big, but the human has bigger resources. When the human discovers that they have this big gun bazooka, they're able to navigate in that particular moment. They're able to walk into a territory where there's an enemy. I always love the classic story in the Bible of David and Goliath, because David did not see a big giant. Much as this person was physically big, they were a giant. But in an army full of experienced, people who had gone to war many times, this young lad walks into the center of the battle. What's that kind of a mindset? What kind of a mindset is that? And it's I believe a very simple hack, which is what I'm sharing with you on this call today. That one of the ways to make your big decisions appear small is when you tap into your fully resourced state. Is when you tap into your mental faculties. And I talk about the mental faculties of reason, the mental faculties of perception, will, memory, imagination. These are the 6 intellectual faculties. And when you tap into these faculties, you tap into resources that are big and cause the decision to shrink, to be small in your presence in that particular moment. I wish I could complicate it more than I have. I wish I could. But it's not possible to complicate it. I do get that there are moments when you'll probably be at a fork in the road and you'll be like, should I go left? Should I go right? And you're pondering that, and you're really considering that. When you've collected the data that you need, and by the way, when you're talking about collecting the data that you need, finding the answers that you need, I hold this perspective that you do not need to know the answer. You only need to know where to find the answer. You don't need to know the answer. You need to know where to find the answer. Did you hear that? You need to know where to find the answer. You need not have the answer. And so when you're approaching a decision and the decision looks big, question this. What is it about the resource state within me that considers this to be a big decision? Because if you bring someone else who's got a higher level of awareness, the person that you would go to consult and say, I'm about to make this decision, can you help me think this through? They will be looking at that decision from a different level of awareness. When you're at the bottom of the mountain looks so huge and so tall. But what about when you scale the mountain and get to the top? You look at it and say, wow, I'm on top of the mountain. And it's no longer as big as you were seeing it before. And so my big idea here today is, while there are decisions that require you to consider the options, whenever you catch yourself saying that, hey, this decision is big, you're almost equally saying, without voicing it, that I am small in the presence of this decision. If a decision is important, it's not the same as a decision being big. Because when a decision is important, it summons the seriousness, it summons the concentration, it summons the clarity, it summons the dedication, it summons the resoluteness, it summons the courage that is required to make that decision at the time that you're required to make that decision. But whenever we say that a decision is big, we've got to ask the question, in comparison to what? Even if it's in comparison to other decisions you've made in the past, it's not as big. No, it's not as important. It's not as urgent. Let us find the correct meaning that we're giving to a decision, and we will catch the self-saboteur within that holds us back from making that decision. Another way to make a decision small is to disconnect the outcome. From yourself. If I make this decision, having considered what could happen, and making a decision desiring that X outcome will happen, taking the time to ponder the decision, hoping that if I make this decision, this unintended outcome will not take place, is not going to help you. And what it does is that in the process of waiting and indecision and procrastination, several things happen. The urgency of the decision continues to make the decision appear big. The importance of the decision continues to knock on your door. Can you imagine sitting in a tin-roofed house and there's a constant dripping of water on that roof? Day and night. It almost paralyzes your entire system when you've not made a decision that you ought to make. And that urgency, that overwhelm of that decision on your entire system almost appears to make it big. But the truth is that the decision is not big. It's your hesitation. It's your delay. It's your procrastination. It's your lack of courage. It's you seeking opinions that makes the decision appear big. And yet it's not. And so when you're attached to an outcome, that this decision must give me that outcome. When you're attached to an outcome, and therefore are not able to make a decision until all guarantees have been made that the outcome that is desired is what will result after making the decision. If you're waiting for that guarantee and you're not able to find it from whatever sources you have, and you keep waiting, the decision appears to grow bigger. And yet, it's not big. It's your hesitation. And I'm going to talk about procrastination and hesitation and indecision in this week's episode. Today, I wanted you to note these two things as I land here. The decision is not big. Because if it is big, we've got to ask the question, big in comparison to what? And when we say big, it means big in comparison to me, who's small, to my resources, which are small, to my ability to navigate the outcome, which is small. I would rather that you say the decision is important, and then we summon the right resources to act on that decision. We seek the expertise, we get the counsel, we get the guidance, but we're ready to make a decision. To say, I'm willing to make option A, give me the guides. I'm willing to make option B, let me know. I'm willing to make option C, let me know. But I'm ready to make a decision, and I'll make a decision at this point, having considered all that is in front of me. And that's the way to go. The second thing is when we hold back and delay and delay and delay, and indecision creeps in, the decision almost seems to become bigger than what it was initially. If we had just made the decision immediately with the awareness that we have and the resources that we have, boom, made the decision, it would not linger anymore. We would not be thinking about it. It would be a thing of the past, and we can call forth the resources to alter the outcomes, whatever happens when we make that decision. I know there are decisions that are important in your life. I remember when I was making the decision to leave gainful employment to go into business. That was a tough moment. That was 16 years ago. When I decided I'm going to move from the certainty of a salary, I'm going to move away from the assurance and guarantee of an income at the end of the month, to go into this business that I was passionate about and I was good at, but I didn't know what the market was going to bring. And as soon as I made the decision, I could not have predicted what happened then. Because when I resigned, we experienced what was in Kenya, the post-election violence in 2007. And for 6 months, the economy was on its knees. What a bad time to start a business. But I already made my decision. I tendered my resignation. And if I look back at that decision that I made, it always gives me the cells of recognition that I have the mettle and the muscle to make the decisions that are necessary at the point that the decisions are necessary, without worrying or giving so much power to the possible outcomes when I make that decision. And it's by focusing on this one thing, and this is the thing that I want to leave you with, to make big decisions look small. Focus and tap into your resourced state. Go back inside. If you look outside and you think, wow, this is a big decision, go back in. Reorganize yourself, reconnect with your resourced state, with your mental faculties, with your ability to find the answer. Go back in. And once you've got muscled that, now step out and face the decision. I want to put it to you that you will find that the decision has shrunk in size to be what it actually is. An important decision that you can summon your resources to then make the right decision. I hope that you've learned something here today that will inspire you as you're on your dream development journey, as you're on your peak performance journey. Join me tomorrow as we talk about why good opinions are bad when you're making a decision. I want to help you develop your decisiveness. It's a skill that in the 21st century will earn you more money than anything else. Leaders are paid to make decisions. The President of the United States is paid the most to make about 5% of the decisions. All the other 95%, you and I can make those decisions. It's the 5% that he's actually paid for. And that's a skill to develop, decisiveness. Thanks for taking time to be with me here today. Kamoye Benjamin, type in the comments the idea that you took away, and I can't wait to connect with you again tomorrow. Blessings, be well, and bye for now.